Good afternoon. I'd like to thank Mayor Sandra for granting me the speaking rights today. I am aware of what a privilege that is to be afforded. My name is Gale, and along with my wife Ashley, we are the owners of the Estelle Holiday Park, a place I've called my home for 36 years. I'm here to represent Category 3 landowners who are unable to stand here and do so themselves. This is the only opportunity that has been afforded to us to do so. We are tired, frustrated and angry as HDC tell us one thing, do another, and shift the goalposts on people who have already lost so much. The voluntary buyout offer has deemed that engagement with our community wasn't necessary, as these changes were not significant enough. Our community has been blindsided, having been told throughout the whole process that these demolition costs would be covered by council. If you ask someone who is facing somewhere in the vicinity of $20,000 to $50,000 being taken off them, they would, and they do, disagree. The potential change in policy appears to be a massive oversight to the tune of $2 million. This on its own should make it significant. Yet alone the fact that this $2 million impact will be concentrated on less than 137 property owners rather than spread out upon thousands of ratepayers. The councillors, if they accept the policy, will discriminate certain groups of people based on their insurance status. They will penalise those who are uninsured and the most vulnerable, along with those who were well insured but still did not receive enough for the replacement value of their assets, which they are then being prevented from replacing in situ. People who were affected have suffered unimaginable losses. The uninsured literally have nothing to their names. They lost their homes and all their belongings. Those who were well insured for their house didn't necessarily have good contents insurance. I know of many people who had between $20,000 and $50,000 of contents insurance, with the $20,000 mark being very common. There were also some who had none. So yes, taking an extra $20,000 to $50,000 of people is a huge deal. They had been relying on what we were told by council, and we feel now we're being king hit. How can councillors form a fair opinion if they only receive one side of the story, which what we believe is what would have happened if the public hadn't found out about this from our community members? In my opinion, sadly, I think it is a foregone conclusion that the recommended option will be adopted today. I only say this because Category 3 owners have been telling me that they have written correspondence from HDC stating the calculated demolition costs that would be imposed if adopted at this meeting. The lawyers are circling and litigation is pending. As Mayor Sandra stated in clause 1.4, that in some cases the insurance proceeds of a property owner has received has exceeded the market valuation of residential improvements. Clause 1.5 states that this raises a question as to whether these property owners, having been well compensated, should make some contribution to the demolition of the dwellings. Currently, where property owners are fully insured, the insurance proceeds are likely to include an allowance for demolition. Under the current policy, the property owner retains that allowance, yet the cost of the demolition falls on the council and ratepayers. This is considered to be inconsistent with the policy's objective of affordability to ratepayers and with the principle of acting in good faith between all parties, including those funding offers made under this policy. Most property owners I am aware of have an insurance policy which states replacement value up to a sum of a certain value. If they have received a full payout, including demolition costs, they were still underinsured. Otherwise, that property would have been deemed a repair. There is no such thing as being overinsured. as the insurance companies will only ever pay you out the amount required to replace what was lost, up to the maximum amount of the policy. An example would look like this. A homeowner is insured for a sum of $1 million. The house is a villa with lots of native timber and it has some cool architectural features. They suffer what is deemed a total loss, and the insurance pays them the full $1 million. They do this because the repair cost is actually $1.5 million. This $1 million payout includes demolition costs, but still isn't enough to replace what they had. Just because a homeowner has received a full payout, it does not mean that they have received enough to rebuild what they had. In fact, it just means they didn't have enough to repair it and therefore are actually underinsured on their assets. Now, if this homeowner had insured it for $2 million, they would have received $1.5 million and it would have been deemed a repair and it would not have included demolition costs. If the market value of this property was deemed to be $900,000, that would mean that in the first example, the Voluntary Buy-Out Office would deem this as well compensated and they would charge a demolition cost as the insurance payment, which included the demolition cost, was higher than the market value. In the second example, they would still say that they were well compensated and still apply demolition costs, even though the payout would not include them because the house would have been deemed a repair. The reality is that the property is actually overcapitalised, which is why they have received insurance payouts higher than the market value. The Voluntary Buy-Out Office is comparing the house replacement cost, which is an insurance issue, versus the market value being what they could sell it for. Replacement value as deemed by insurance has no correlation to market value and should therefore be disregarded. And everyone should be treated the same. All being treated the same by council, continuing to pay everyone's demolition costs, and that would be acting in a just and fair manner. There is no double dipping. People were simply insured for a sum that they believed that would replace their homes like for like, in situ, which they are now prevented from doing so. The fact that some homeowners received a full payout that includes demolition costs simply means they didn't have enough cover to repair it or replace it. We do have a couple of solutions, however. Rather than taking more from those so badly affected, ask the national government to step up like they did in Christchurch when they were in power back then and cover this cost. Alternatively, talk to the Red Cross, who, from what info I can source, still have $3.5 million donated by people all over New Zealand to go towards those affected. This money has to be used for projects, and what a better project than this? Ultimately, our communities want the contribution to be left out of the policy and are furious at the suggestion that we are benefiting by receiving a full payout. There are no winners in this situation. People are hanging on by a thread. People are suffering with depression, marriage breakups, serious health issues and suicide due to the stress of the cyclone and this drawn-out process. This could very well tip some over the edge. Is a $2 million saving really worth that? I'd like to acknowledge all the cyclone-affected families who have been devastated by this event, and to state that our community is disgusted at the timing of this flawed and unfair policy right before the 1-year anniversary with already heightened emotions. As one of our residents said, we have paid with everything we have, and some have even paid with their life. How much more contribution do you want? Come on, there is nothing left to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. And